What's up, you guys? So it's Layla Lynn, and I'm back with a new video. In this video, I want to give an update on the divorce between Porsha Williams and Simon Guobadia now that Simon has been detained by immigration. And I want to talk about Dr. Simone out of nowhere calling out Porsha and calling Porsha the number one mean girl on Watch What Happens Live. We're going to get into both of those topics today because there is a lot of tea to spill. But first, if you're not familiar with me, I'm Layla Lynn. I do celebrity news and nostalgia. And I also cover the Housewives and Married to Medicine. And some of you may not know this. I've had a ton of new subscribers recently. Some of you may not know I'm also a course creator, something like a teacher. So I'm very into like education and things like that. So I try to share my knowledge. So I do have courses. My flagship course is my content creator boot camp, where it's like a 12-step program where I take you step by step the art of content creation, creating content that like gets people's attention. So if you look below in the description box in the comment section, I'll leave a link to my course, Layla Lynn's Content Creator Bootcamp. It's for people who want to create content for social media, like YouTube, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, and also not just as a content creator, but if you create content for your business, like if you're a small business owner and you want to create content that like gets people attention, is for small business owners as well. I talk about both of those in the same course. So in my content creator bootcamp, if you're trying to get it going, get into my content creator bootcamp. One of the best things about it, I think, is the fact that you get to like ask me questions. Like it's not just something you purchase and there's no communication with me. As you're going through the boot camp, any questions you have, you can just ask me your question and I will answer you. And that's one of the best parts because a lot of people have very, very specific questions that they want answers to. And I am willing and able to share my knowledge. So let's get into the video. Let's start with Porsha's divorce. So we'll start there and then we'll get into Dr. Simone and her shade. All right, you guys. So In Touch is reporting Porsha Williams claims ex Simon Guobadia's attempt to illegally enter the United States caused his ICE detention. Now, I don't know why they put the phrase illegally in quotes because this has been all through the court system. The Immigration Department of the United States has said that he has an illegal permanent residency. But they report Rowan star Porsha Williams' estranged husband, Simon Guobadia, filed an emergency motion in their ugly divorce pleading for an important hearing to be pushed due to him being detained by ICE. Now, I told you guys in my last video about the two of them that he was pushing for an in-person divorce hearing. And to me, in my opinion, it gave, I want to intimidate her in person. Because so far they've been doing everything by Zoom. And Porsha has this expert attorney. He's one of the top attorneys in the United States, and he wants to appear via Zoom. Everybody wants to do everything via Zoom, but Simon was pushing for an in-person hearing. They say, according to court documents, Simon's legal team filed the motion on Tuesday, February 25th, days after the businessman was taken into custody by immigration officials. Simon has been trying to become a United States citizen for years. And now we see the reason he wants to become a citizen. A lot of people are not familiar with immigration. They don't understand if he has a permanent residency, why does he still want to become a citizen? Now that he's been detained, you can see why. Because if he becomes a U.S. citizen, he can't be detained. And he knows, even though for decades he's had this permanent residency, he knows that he's still in danger of being detained and deported because his permanent residency was not granted legally. Simon's currently at the Stewart Detention Center in Lumpkin, Georgia, 2 hours outside of Atlanta, according to his attorney. So in the motion he filed, he pleaded for the scheduled hearing. And you guys, actually, I have a copy of the motion. Let me show you guys the motion. So in the motion, Simon's lawyer pleaded for the scheduled hearing where Simon was to fight the enforcement of the prenup be postponed until he's released from ICE detainment. And so if you all recall, the prenup is where he promised Porsha the house. In the case of a separation, he promised Porsha she can stay in the house until he sells the house. And just side note, you guys. So Real Housewives of Atlanta released like a 6-minute sneak peek of the first episode. And you see Shamia's house in the first episode. And I'm going to do another video talking about Porsha and Shamia because I do think there's some jealousy there. So that's a whole nother video that I'll be doing soon. That's just a side note. But in any case, they say the motion asks for the hearing to be pushed to a date after Simon is released from ICE custody to give Simon an opportunity to adequately prepare for court, participate in his own divorce, and attend court proceedings. Simon's lawyer argued the motion to enforce the prenup, and I can't even believe they're having to debate whether or not to enforce the prenup, but they are. And his attorney said the motion to enforce the prenup is a substantive motion that requires finding a fact by this court, and the outcome of the motion will also have a substantial effect on how the remainder of the divorce case proceeds, as it may result in litigation on some issues. The biggest issue is the house. Porsha is living in the house that he promised her in the prenup in the event of a divorce. And so they talk about gold digging and things like that, but really it's Simon. In my opinion, he's the one fishing or digging because he was using his house as bait, and he used the prenup as bait to get Porsha. And now Porsha is living in that $8 million home because he promised she could. So in this next document, we see that Porsha filed an objection to Simon's emergency motion, and she claimed he had delayed the hearing from being held for weeks before his detention. And her lawyer argued that Simon seeks relief from the very in-person hearing that he demanded, claiming inconvenience and unavailability. His attempt to avoid the consequences of his own request is disingenuous and a continuation of his pattern of delay tactics throughout this litigation. But for Simon's specific request for an in-person hearing, the matter would have proceeded via Zoom, thereby eliminating his current objections. Husband is solely responsible for the in-person setting of the hearing, and his emergency motion for continuance is merely an attempt to evade his own strategic choice. So basically saying he brought it on himself. He brought it on himself, and if you look at the filing, one of the first reasons, the first defense, this motion should be denied based on respondent Simon's unclean hands. Unclean hands. And then they get into the details of his immigration issues, which they are due to his unclean hands, meaning that he tried to scam his way into this country. It's his own fault that he is where he is right now. Her lawyer argued husband's detention by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is the direct result of his attempt to illegally enter the United States. So it ain't her fault. And I know so many people are blaming Porsha. And I know from the outside looking in, it looks like Porsha could have called ICE on Simon. I really feel like she didn't. I don't feel like she needed to. When he sued immigration, it's kind of like calling ICE on himself, if you ask me. Like, he's been having issues with immigration for decades. He sued immigration, so he put himself on their short list of people to be detained. So I don't think she even had to call immigration on him. But I do think she married him knowing he had immigration issues. And then when he promised her that she could reside in his house in the event of a separation, she took advantage of that, knowing he has immigration issues. And so in a way, she may possibly benefit from him being detained if she's trying to get his house. I don't know if she'll ever get his house permanently, but at least for a couple years, she may be able to reside in his home. And so in response to Simon's emergency motion for continuance, y'all, guess what the court said? Guess what the court said? Y'all, the court sided with Simon. The judge, I can't say he wasn't trying to be fair. The judge was trying to be fair, and the judge granted the motion for a continuance. He's going to give Simon some more time to get himself together. I can't hate on this because obviously Simon is in a tough situation. Even if he put himself there, he's in a tough situation, and the judge is going to give him some more time to get himself together and hopefully be released from ICE detention. So y'all leave a comment and let me know what y'all think. Do y'all think eventually Porsha is going to have the long-term right to live in Simon's home? Like I said, I don't know if she'll ever be able to reside there permanently because it's not her home. But as far as long-term, like the next 5 to 7 years, do you think Porsha is going to be living in Simon's home and Simon is going to be in Dubai somewhere, Dubai or Costa Rica, looking at his home on Instagram? As Porsha makes TikToks and reels in his home? Like, is that what's going to happen? Y'all leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I also want to share with y'all Dr. Simone. I don't know what got into Dr. Simone, why she would want to call out Porsha like this. But on Watch What Happens Live, she called Porsha the number one mean girl. She said Phaedra left Married to Medicine to go to the number one mean girl to reunite freaking frat. And so people are responding to that out of nowhere shade. Like this person who said, who gave Simone vodka? She wants smoke with Porsha? Someone else said, Simone is making the point about Porsha being the real mean girl. Clocking the tea, the others are scared to clock, I'm afraid. Someone else, Majestic Myron, said Porsha and Simone ain't ever been in the same circle, both on and off the show. Simone is starting to become the person she doesn't like. Starting with last year's reunion. Y'all remember what she did to Quad at last year's reunion. And he said, now it's like nothing has been learned. And I really feel like what she did to Quad, y'all put a 1 in the chat. If you feel like what she did to Quad, bringing up her niece, is worse than what Porsha did to Kenya. I know it's kind of tricky there, but y'all leave a comment. 1, if you think Dr. Simone was worse for what she did to Quad, she was the number one mean girl, or put a 2 if you think Porsha was the number one mean girl for what she did to Kenya, and also Cynthia. Somebody else said it's the you were there for me, because Dr. Simone reminded Andy that he was there when Porsha did what she did to Kenya. They say, except I'm missing something. Dr. Simone coming for Porsha makes no sense to me. What's going on? And let me make it make sense. Shout out to Mims. Let me make it make sense. In my opinion, there is a jealousy between Married to Medicine and the ladies of Real Housewives of Atlanta. And it all has to do with the push. This is my opinion. The push that Bravo gives Real Housewives of Atlanta that they don't give to Married to Medicine. They tried to franchise Married to Medicine. I want to say there was a Married to Medicine Houston, and there was also Married to Medicine LA. And Dr. Heavenly did help them promote Married to Medicine LA. She did lives with the ladies, caused drama. She did everything to help them franchise the show. And it seemed like it was working at one point, but ultimately the opportunity to franchise Married to Medicine failed. And so Married to Medicine doesn't get that push. It doesn't get that marketing. It's like the Bravo stepchild, whereas the Housewives franchise gets all that marketing. So in my opinion, I think that's why the ladies of Married to Medicine, they do act like they're jealous of the Housewives. They do act jealous. And I feel like Dr. Simone's comment was a comment made out of jealousy. That's my opinion. Y'all leave a comment and share yours. As always, thanks for watching. All right, you guys, so I just want to give y'all a sneak peek behind the scenes view of my course. I don't think I've ever shown my course on camera before, but this is how it works. Basically, it's 3 types of learning. There's a video lesson. There's several modules. There's 12 modules, but there'll be a video lesson in each module. And then there's also a text lesson, like below each video, there's a text lesson. It's a total of over 60 lessons and a total of over 10 hours of content. So what I'm doing is meeting you where you're at as far as your learning style, whether your learning style is visual or textual. And then also if you learn hands-on, there are workbooks included with each module. If you learn hands-on, you can go through the workbooks and do the activities and learn that way. So this is a behind the scenes look at Layla Lynn's Content Creator Bootcamp, and I will see you inside. Now, if you made it this far to the end of the video, then I think you like my content. So make sure you subscribe and check out my channel. I have over 1,000 videos on my channel. Check out my playlist and my podcast, and I assure you, you will like more of my content.